Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to do the ductwork. I call the tutorial ductwork because it's basically I'm just going to be showing you how to do the ductwork. But obviously, it's really mechanical with the mechanical equipment, like the the mechanical units, and the diffusers and everything like that. And then the pipe in itself. But obviously, the refrigerant piping lines are done the same exact way as I showed you for the piping of the um, for the plumbing system, so it's the same. And even the ductwork itself kind of has the same techniques to add in ductwork as well. I'm going to show you how to do the colors for the ducts if you want to set up colors. But I'm not going to leave it active on mine just because when I started to put in my stuff, I just did it quickly and I didn't pay attention to actually making sure I selected the system as exhaust air and everything was set up properly. Uh, from that way, but obviously it's the same thing. It's the same just like piping when you put in a duct. You want to, if it's an exhaust duct, you want to make sure it's exhaust. If it's a supply, you want to make sure it's a supply, or if it's return, you want to make sure it's return, um, and everything like this. So like, see this is exhaust air. This is and this is kind of a problem that's with it too. Is basically one of these is exhaust and one of these is outside air that brings air in. Um, but unfortunately, Revit doesn't differentiate between the two. It just has it as a return or supply. It doesn't actually say because when you have a unit like this, if I isolate this for a second, so this is my HVAC unit that I was using, and you can see there's actually four connections that you have to it. There's an exhaust air that goes to the outside, and outside air that's pulled in goes into the system, and then you have a supply line and a return line. So there's actually four ducts that connected to it. And a line like this means return. Um, so anything with a line through it is a return, and then anything with an X through it means supply. So you see here, this has an X, so that's a supply. And then this is for electricity, if you want to run electricity lines. And then you see on this side, you have return and supply. So X is a supply, and then this one, it looks like they have a little line with like a little line, but it's not a full X through it. So that symbol is always return, and this the X is always supply. But unfortunately, Revit only knows it as supply and return. It doesn't differentiate between like exhaust and outside air intake, and so that's why it kind of messes with your system a little bit when if you're trying to do color for the ductwork. But you can still do it. I mean, obviously, it would just instead of saying this is exhaust and this is return, it would just they would end up being the same color because Revit only knows return, and that's why like instead of probably doing exhaust, you might want to do return there. I mean, it's something that we can look at more in detail for each project itself. But there is like a return, like if you go, let me draw a duct quickly, just to put it in. When you look at the system, there's only three. You can only do exhaust air, return air, or supply air. Technically, this is outside air, and that's why it's called in the mechanical, just mechanical in general in the industry. It's outside air that's pulled in, exhaust air that's thrown out from the unit, and then supply air and return air. But so those are the only three. So you kind of have um, a separate one for outside air that Revit doesn't create. But again, if you have the filters and then you go into the edit visibility and go to the filters tab, you can find the mechanical ductwork supply, and you can add, make it a color. I'm going to do a solid fill, and I'm going to say it's blue, and then I'm going to say ductwork exhaust, Again, I'm going to say solid fill, make it like an orange, and then return. I'm going to say, so do it as like a teal, I guess. And again, for what I do for work, we kind of just make everything teal. We don't differentiate what color between exhaust and return or supply. We just make everything teal and then label it in the drawings. But if you want to set up colors so when you're doing this, it's easier to see, this is the way that you can do it. And then you hit OK, and then it starts to add color to the piping. But as I said, I'm not gonna show mine with color as I'm showing you guys because you can see I didn't pay attention really to what I was doing. Um, I was doing this quickly when I was doing it for my project. So this is, see how this is supply air, but it's actually um, exhausting. So I wasn't paying attention to my systems, but that's something that you guys should do when you're doing it. Since I knew what I was doing anyway, and I knew how systems work because I do it for work. I was just doing it quickly to have it done. Um, but obviously for you guys, that's something that you're gonna want to pay attention to. So setting up the color beforehand will probably help you guys to run it, so you can start to run stuff easier. But for me, I'm just gonna leave it as black and white for now. Um, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna leave it black and white for now as I show you guys certain things, and then I'll switch the color back on when I start just show you some, drawing some piping and stuff. Um, so basically, for your mechanical system, you have your outdoor unit. That's either gonna be, it could be on the ground, it could be on the roof. But these these right here are outdoor, and what these do, the ones that are outdoor, which is basically, it's usually your chiller that's either outside on the ground or on the roof, as I said. What those do is they, and again, this depends on your system, whatever your system is, but typically most systems they'll have a chiller out, the unit outside that runs it. And then from the unit itself is refrigerant lines that go to, you can see I had five separate, for my project I have five separate systems. But for this system, so the refrigerant lines go to the air handler unit for whatever it's servicing, and then that's where it goes in, and then the refrigerant is what helps cool it. And then from the air handler unit, you have one duct that's outside air that's pulled in, and then you have a louver that's on the outside of the building, um, on the facade, so you can actually see it on the facade there. So I have it hidden, but if I switch to another view, you'd be able to see it on the facade. So you try to hide the louvers if you can, or incorporate them into the design. Obviously, that's what you would want to do. A lot of people don't do that. Um, if it's more of a development and they're just trying to get the building up quickly, and they're more worried about earning money than in architectural design, they'll just put the louvers wherever and just have them as a that they can be seen. But typically, you want to try to hide them as best as you can. And there's a certain distance that exhaust air has to be away from air that's sucked into the building. So this is fresh air coming in, and this is exhaust air that's being put out. Obviously, you don't want this to be right next to each other because exhaust air would be thrown out and then sucked right back into the building. And then obviously, another thing you want to do is wherever you have exhaust air coming out, you want to make sure that it's not being thrown into a space that's used, by the public, and they'll be able to smell anything that's coming out. Um, that wouldn't be good. This is actually my loading bay back here, so that's why I have it coming out there. So you see so those are the lines that are coming in, and then some like for my system, I had a whole bunch of different stuff going on that they got the professor that lectured to you guys on Wednesday probably talked about, but there's different systems, and so this is how I did my system for my corridors and stuff. So it's a whole different thing that we can get into. But basically, I'm not going to get into the system of this video and different things that you can do. I'm just going to show you how you can start to add pipe into it, and then we can look at your systems in general. But you can see my refrigerant line. It comes in and splits off to this AHU, and then it goes in and starts to split off to the different other units that I have throughout my building that may need it, that are on that system. And then I have another system that's used for the second floor, and then another system that's used for the third floor. Okay, so basically the mechanical equipment is done pretty much the same way as a plumbing fixture would be. So if you put in a mechanical equipment, and that was from the systems tab, obviously you'd hit load, and you can come down to mechanical. Again, if you hit architectural, you won't get the branch offs for it. So like if I click on this mechanical piece of equipment, you see how I get the refrigerant line pipe and things that I can draw pipes out of. And then like for this AHU, I get the refrigerant lines, and then I get the supply lines and the return lines for all the ductwork. So when you're in systems and you're doing mechanical equipment, if you hit mechanical, and then if you load through architectural, you won't get all that stuff. So that's why you always want to make sure you're in MEP, and then you would find your component that you would want, and then you'd bring it in, whatever it is, and then that's how you would bring it in. And then there's certain this sort of stuff here. This was for a VRF system. Um, they don't come with Revit, so you actually can go to the manufacturer's website and download these, and they come in for you, and that's how you can add them in. Diffusers are done. Basically, it's a diffuser, and that's how either air is brought into a space or out of a space, and those are done. Revit calls them air terminals, and then you can do it the same way where you can load a family, and then mechanical, MEP. I believe they're air side, and then air terminals. And then this is where you get supply diffuser, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. You get it on a wall, rectangular, a circular one, a whole bunch of different ones that you can load in. But when you load it in, you can load it and then you can place it. Obviously you can see I'm placing it in 3D on this one, and my level is first floor, and I'm at an offset of 0. But I could change it to a different level. Maybe I go to roof, or I could even change it, and it corresponds to roof and roof, and then I can do an offset. Or if I'm on level the first floor, then I can say a 10 feet offset. So when I place it, it knows to be 10 feet above the first floor. Sometimes the easiest way to put diffusers in, especially if they're ceiling diffusers, is just to do it in plan view, and then adjust the heights if needed after you put them in plan, because obviously you're going to want to be in plan when you put a diffuser to kind of help space them equally, depending on how many you need in the space and stuff like that. So that's what you want to what you want to do for that. I'll go off to the later at the end. I'll go off to the side and do like a quick little system, like a diffuser. But you can see this is supply here, and then this one is a return. So you can see it returns always a return diffuser is usually bigger, because typically you only need one or two return diffusers for a space, no matter the size. And then the supply is broken down into little ones. So if a space needs 4 supply diffusers, it only needs 1 return diffuser, so you don't have to do 4 returns as well. So that's it for this video. I'm just going to continue on in part 2, right from here where I left off.